Dear Lorca, by Jack Spicer. When I translate one of your poems and I come across words I do not understand, I always guess at their meanings. I am inevitably right. A really perfect poem, no one has yet written one, could be perfectly translated by a person who did not know one word of the language it was written in. A really perfect poem has an infinitely small vocabulary. It is very difficult. We want to transfer the immediate object, the immediate emotion to the poem, and yet the immediate always has hundreds of its own words clinging to it, short-lived and tenacious as barnacles. And it is wrong to scrape them off and substitute others. A poet is a time mechanic, not an embalmer. The words run around the immediate shrivel and decay like flesh around the body. No mummy sheet of tradition can be used to stop the process. Objects, words must be led across time, not preserved against it. I yell shit down a cliff at an ocean. Even in my lifetime, the immediacy of that word will fade. It will be dead as a lass. But if I put the real cliff and the real ocean into the poem, the word shit will ride along with them, travel the time machine until cliffs and oceans disappear. Most of my friends like words too well. They set them under the blinding light of the poem and try to extract every possible connotation from each of them, every temporary pun, every direct or indirect connection, as if a word could become an object by mere addition of consequences. Others pick up words from the street, from their bars, from their offices, and display them proudly in their poems as if they were shouting, "See what I have collected from the American language. Look at my butterflies, my stamps, my old shoes. What does one do with all this crap?" Words are what stick to the real. We use them to push the real, to drag the real into the poem. They are what we hold on with, nothing else. They are as valuable in themselves as rope, with nothing to be tied to. I repeat, the perfect poem has an infinitely small vocabulary. Love, Jack. The Ballad of a Dead Woodcutter. Because the fig tree was sapless, it has cracked at the root. Oh, you have fallen down on your head. You have fallen on your head. Because the oak tree was rootless, it has cracked at the branch. Oh, you have fallen down on your head. You have fallen on your head. Because I walked through the branches, I have scratched out my heart. Oh, you have fallen down on your head. You have fallen on your head. The Ballad of Weeping. I have closed my window because I do not want to hear the weeping, but behind the gray walls, nothing can be heard but weeping. A few dogs might bark, a few angels might sing, there might be room for 1,000 violins in the palm of my hand. But the weeping is a big dog, the weeping is a big angel, the weeping is a big violin. The tears put a muzzle on the air, and nothing can be heard but weeping. Dear Lorca, loneliness is necessary for pure poetry. When someone intrudes into the poet's life, and any sudden personal contact, whether in the bed or in the heart, is an intrusion. He loses his balance for a moment, slips into being who he is, uses his poetry as one would use money or sympathy. The person who writes the poetry emerges, tentatively, like a hermit crab from a conch shell. The poet, for that instant, ceases to be a dead man. I, for example, could not finish the last letter I was writing you about sounds. You were like a friend in a distant city to whom I was suddenly unable to write, not because the fabric of my life had changed, but because I was suddenly, temporarily, not in the fabric of my life. I could not tell you about it because both it and I were momentary. Even the objects change. The seagulls, the greenness of the ocean, the fish, they become things to be traded for a smile or the sound of conversation, counters rather than objects. Nothing matters except the big lie of the personal, the lie in which these objects do not believe. That instant, I said. It may last for a minute, a night, or a month, But this I promise you, Garcia Lorca, the loneliness returns. The poet insists the intruder. The object comes back to their own places, silent and unsmiling. I again begin to write you a letter on the sound of a poem, and this immediate thing, this personal adventure, will not have been transferred into the poem like the waves and the birds were, will, at best, show in the lovely pattern of cracks in some poem where autobiography shattered but did not quite destroy the surface. And the insisted emotion will itself become an object, to be transferred at last into poetry like the waves and the birds. And I will again become your special comrade. Love, Jack. The Moon and Lady Death. The moon has marble teeth. How old and sad she looks. There is a dry river. There is a hill without grass. There is a dead oak tree near a dry river. Lady Death, wrinkled, goes looking for custom at the heels of a crowd of tenuous phantoms. Near the dead oak tree, near the dry river, there is a fair without trumpets, and tents made of shadow. She sells them dry paint, made of wax and torture, wicked and twisted like a witch in a story. There is a dry river, there is a hill without grass, there is a dead oak tree near a dry river. The moon is tossing money down through the black air. Near the dead oak tree, near the dry river, there is a fair without trumpets, and tents made of shadow.